this week's talk pro. But now, this week's talk pro. I'm your host, Bert Wentworth, and the topic this evening is housing. And I'm going to call this 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 5.
If that transition was familiar to you, then you were a part of a very special experience, the Dickie Bell Twist Dance Party. We've got some of the members of Dickie Bell Twist here today to talk about our experiences, to talk about our history, and to share some memories about our creative process. I am Bill Cott. Some of you might have known me from the Dickie Bell Twist. Also, the Disney show, Wizards of Waverly Place, and general comedy happiness, like the Dana Carvey show. I'd like to welcome to our screen, Eric Hoffman. Please give him a big round of applause.
Thank you, Bill. I am Eric von Hoffman, not to be confused with metal guitarist Eric Hoffman. Welcome to Sketch Panel. This is our first edition of this show in which we hope to deep dive into the workings of various sketch comedy groups, find out how they started, why they started, talk through the process of creating and maintaining a sketch comedy group. So for our first show, though, we're going to be turning the mics around and take a look at a sketch group that Bill and I were in together for a few years, which was called the Dickie Bell Twist Dance Party. And we're going to find out all about the sketches, the venues, and the name.
I'm Rich Folger. Welcome to Dickie Bell's Twist Dance Party.
Let me introduce the best of the Improv Olympics, Dickie Bell. Every time you go to the bathroom, you lose part of your soul.
Last night, I dreamt the Virgin Mary wept for you.
Yeah, so far your dreams are about as boring as stairs.
I can walk upstairs.
Oh yeah? Well, fuck you!
Get him! Person! This is the fuel that will send me hurtling through the freeway of your mind until we finally arrive at our destination, Confection City, population 1!
You're fired, Janglin. And while you're at it, go to hell.
Not too late. Go, what? Well, yeah.
Rocky Mountain oysters, I became a full goblin freak. What did he just say? What's with all this bullshit? Stimulating their right titans with generous slops of tongue love under their lewd cornholes, if we had any intention of seeing their buttholes wink in the velvety valley of big bodies. Let me put that metaphorically. And I mean now.
Don't move a muscle. Ah, Magnet City, I've got you in the palm of my ass.
Unfortunately, no one was killed. And now, we bring you up Bob Lumberton.
Well, thanks for the birthday party anyway.
Okay, this first gentleman is a super funny guy I met at Columbia College Chicago in Norm Holly's comedy workshop class. Or maybe it was Estelle Spector's acting one class. I don't remember which. We've been in movies and TV shows together. We've co-written shows like the long-running and Ducky Award-winning Goombas. And we've played a lot of Mario Kart and Halo together. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Monrestelli.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
And an also super funny guy who I first met at the Annoyance when I was understudying a part in a show called Motel Schmegma by our mutual friend Lolly Torres. Hi, Lolly. He's a member of the Comedy Lounge act, The Lampshades with Kate Flannery. He's been an instructor himself for many years. And we have also played a lot of Mario Kart and Halo together. Mr. Scott Robinson.
Hello, gentlemen.
What's up, Scott?
Scotty.
Hello.
And finally, we'd like to also welcome another super funny guy who is also a musician who provided the live music for a lot of our live shows. He's worked with Comedy Sports, UCB, iOWest, The Comedy Store, many others. He's been in a ton of shows with me personally. And yes, we have also played a lot of Mario Kart and Halo together. Mr. Michael Burson.
Hello. I got my thing ready for when we're going to play after this, right?
Beautiful.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
I think we would be remiss if I didn't mention that I've also played a lot of Mario Kart and Halo.
Yeah.
And 1080.
Yes.
For
When
sure.
we weren't thinking about sketches, we were playing Mario Kart and Halo.
Mm-hmm.
And GoldenEye once in a while, too, right?
And
Goldeneye, lots of Goldeneye. Yeah.
Big time Goldeneye. Yeah.
a couple others, yeah.
Mhm.
So welcome, you guys. Let's get going here right away. Excuse me.
Eric, while you're shuffling papers, you and I actually met when I was understudying Dino's show that you and Brian McCann.
That's right. That's right.
That was a
I
little
knew there was
before
something-
Motel
yeah.
Schmegma.
Thank you. Yeah, that was Trent.
Trent.
What was it called? It was billed by Dino Stamatopoulos and Tom Bell. It was a light tragedy with music. Yes, that's right. That's when you and I first met.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Dino told me that he's getting that produced.
Oh, is he really? He did a graphic novel of it. It was really good. So the last time we were all together, Mr. Burson, I don't think you were there. I think we were on Stelly's rooftop talking about a reunion show, maybe 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I did not make it to that one. I was here in Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's the last time the four of us were together. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, the first show we did that was called Dickie Bell, and we'll get into that in a little bit, was December 12th, 1997. And the last show, I believe, was November 10th, 1999. So that's 2 years. That's 97. That's our 23-year anniversary, I believe. That's pretty good. But 2 years as a sketch group, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot of intense work.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of intense work.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean-
There was so much to get together, just to get 5 guys together to rehearse and to try to get and all that stuff. And yeah.
And we always like to make it really complicated for ourselves. We always
Yes.
like to do the biggest, most elaborate with tons of, and we had no decent technology. We had analog technology, so we're using all kinds of different music cues from different tapes and sources, elaborate lighting cues and stuff like that. It was ridiculous, but it was like that extra thing, I think, that made it fun for people to watch.
We brought iOWest's first strobe light.
Oh yeah,
That's right.
Never got it back.
Did we get the strobe light just for that, or was it?
Yeah,
yeah, we did. Yeah,
we did not have a strobe light. We wanted it for our opening, and so I think I went to Hollywood Toy and Costume and got a strobe, and like Bill Lippincott or somebody who knows how to run those lights hooked it up there, and it stayed there, and probably got put into the new theater, and it's probably still there because the neon sign is still up at iOWest.
I'll bet it is.
That was great. We got a lot of use out of that strobe light.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Go big or go home.
You're right on that, Stella. Yeah, we put I think there was a conscious effort to, and we'll get into a little bit more of this here soon, about as far as like bean can tour and stuff like that. You know, everything was very seat of your pants. It was all thrown together. We definitely wanted a little more produced product from this. And I think it called for it because, you know, we were trying to get a TV show, for God's sake. Oh, yeah. So let's start, let's go back a little bit. Let's find out real quick what got you guys into sketch in the first place. I mean, you know, I look back at my life, and it's a lot of time dealing with comedy sketches throughout a lifetime. I mean, it pales compared to some other people, but I mean, what is the basic allure of comedy sketches? I mean, I was definitely influenced at a young age, but you know, Skelton and Carol Burnett and Hee Haw and those kind of things. I mean, what got you guys interested in sketch, or what's your earliest memory of just enjoying that form?
Well, I'll start. For me, it was SNL. You know, the first. I remember seeing the first episode of SNL.
Wow.
The cold opening.
Wow.
And being a little kid, being like 7 years old, and I remember just sitting in front of the TV, and my parents were entertaining guests, and I was, you know, stuck in front of the TV late at night, staying up, and I remember watching that. Probably the first 5 seasons of that show, and you know, Second City TV that was on in Chicago directly after that. Those are for me the beginnings of that. That was just, you know, being a little kid and watching it, and then growing up in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago, was a natural, like, you know, it just felt
it's in the air.
It gravitated towards that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I grew up with like the Red Skelton Show and your shows, and anything that was on that was sketchy up to SNL and SCTV. Of course, like when were able to stay up later, you know, when you got into junior high or so, SCTV was on after SNL was, and that was a whole different thing than SNL. Yeah, so and Carol Burnett and all those same ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely Carol Burnett too. That was a big thing.
And audio comedy too really kind of get my imagination going in visually about what things should look like.
I mean, I think all of us, we grew up in a really, I mean, for me, I think compared to today, a golden era. You know, I mean, we like had amazing, like, you know, you got Steve Martin had his albums, and then they became huge, and then he was on Saturday Night Live, and he had TV specials. They used to give, like, you know, network specials to these guys. I remember Richard Pryor had a couple of specials, and you know, it was an exciting time, and there was also like an edge to it that was really great. It was like comedy to me. That's what comedy is. It's something that's supposed to be kind of hard hitting a little bit, you know, kind of like, you know, make you laugh and also give you a little bit of a punch too. And that
like discovering Monty Python. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
When you first saw it, oh, it's so different.
And not understanding half of what they said, but realizing that it was funny because it just seemed funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that was the first golden age of sketch comedy, the 70s, I think, for us and for everything. But do think there's a new golden age now, because no matter what sort of flavor you want, you could find it. If you want anti-comedy, you could find it. If you want just broad, the sort of stuff that we would see on Sonny and Cher and Yaw and shows like that, you could find that too. You could find a lot more diversity, I think, now, especially on Netflix. There's so many shows that are geared. So I think we were fortunate to be in the first golden era of sketch comedy and grow up watching all that.
You brought up a good thing, Bill, that like variety shows in the 70s, they would do sketches, and they wouldn't even necessarily have comedians in the sketches. It would just be like Sonny and Cher or Tony Orlando and Dawn in a sketch with the guests, right? And I remember thinking like, I could write this shit. And I was like 10. I was thinking like, I could do this. Some of it.
They made they would give everybody a variety show too back then. Great.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Person, did you?
Yeah, you all mentioned ones, that I saw. I used to watch reruns of your show of shows and things like that. But definitely Carol Burnett, Hee Haw, Sonny and Cher, all those variety shows from the 70s. And like Scott said, I was about 10 or 11 when I discovered Monty Python, and that. And back home from Milwaukee, not only did our PBS station have Monty Python, but they had Benny Hill, they had the Paul Hogan show from Australia, and they had all sorts of sketch shows from England that they would just play one after the other, and it was just a matter of me not having my parents catch me watching TV while they think I'm going to bed.
Yeah,
yeah.
There was that forbidden element to it.
Yeah,
Totally. No, it was something you had to stay up late night to watch.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
No, that was definitely. I have notes here. I was saying, that was definitely a special age for sketch because there was a couple things going on. First, there was these new cutting edge groups, as you guys were saying, Python, SNL, SCTV, Fridays. Plus, there was great recorded sketch comedy, as you said, Scott, Cheech and Chong, Firesign Theater, National Lampoon. And there was finally an appreciation of the past, because I remember, as you guys were saying, PBS had started running Old Your Show shows and Ernie Kovacs.
Oh, Ernie Kovacs too, of course, yeah.
At the time, for the first time, sketches were cool. The sketch writers were suddenly being treated like rock stars, Belushi's got the #1 album, movie, and show.
Yeah.
He's a sketch writer. So, yeah, it was the first time that sketch, it was extremely cool.
It was interesting, though, that for our generation, our age, you'd have the range from the 50s, like the beginning of TV with Kovacs, and all the way up to the 70s and in the 80s. And you'd think you'd like, okay, this is such a wide range of styles and types of sensibilities and stuff. I have to do something that's different than all this. You really have an appetite for something that you haven't seen before.
Right. That's a
like
challenge.
all this other stuff. Yeah.
So these are some of the questions real quick that we're going to be asking all of our guests on Sketch Panel. Where did everyone begin? What was the first sketch you ever did? What was your first sketch group? What was the first sketch you remember writing, whether alone or with a co-writer? I'll start off. The first, Bill and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, first sketch that I remember writing that seemed like a sketch at the time was this real quick bit, and we actually ended up rebooting it later for Dickie Bell, was Kill the Host. Simple bit, welcome to Kill the Host, where we and I used it for everything.
Mr. Jeremiah Hoops!
Good evening and welcome to Kill the Host, where we...
Very Monty Python.
Well, yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. When Bill and I have talked about this too with some of our classes. I mean, when we started off, that's all we did was copy. I mean, I think that everyone does that. You copy who you admire, and eventually your voice starts to come out. Yeah. But so that's the first one I remember, writing.
Mine was on tape recorder. My dad was a writer, and so he had, like, when he was done with a cassette recorder for meetings and stuff like that, he would give the old one to us. Or he actually gave us a brand new one year once he saw how much fun we had with it. Me and my brother and my sister would just write cassette comedy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else heard it ever.
Right.
Yeah, me too. I had a tape recorder in my bedroom. I'd write shows for myself and bring in a friend or two if I needed another voice.
Right.
And still got them somewhere actually in a shoebox in some closet. But that was when like Andy Kaufman, was when I first saw him, that really inspired me, because when I found out that he would just perform in his bedroom, when he was younger, it's like I kind of do that too. It's like, oh, I better get a tape recorder out and become him.
A similar thing. I had I think I got a boom box for my bar mitzvah, and and I would and have a friend come over, and we would just we would copy, like, Cheech and Chong and George Carlin bits and kind of make them our own and record them, and those tapes, I have no idea where they are, but that was probably my first start in actually going in that direction anyway.
I'm trying to think of something before college, because I know college for me was kind of like the first time I ever wrote a sketch and performed it. But before that, I remember in high school, in Spanish class, writing, because I was bored as hell in Spanish class and knew that I wasn't going to retain anything at all past graduation. So I would write stories for my friend Mark Mendelson, my best friend, to read, and they were the adventures of the Three Stooges. But it was them when they weren't, like, it wasn't the Three Stooges, it was the actors in Hollywood doing stuff and the adventures that they would get into as actors, and they would do like cocaine and drunk and get into fights. And I remember I had one where Curly went crazy and he had like telekinetic powers and he was killing people and stuff like that. And Mo had to stop him so they could get him for the next short that they had to do, the next Three Stooges short, because the studio wanted them. But he was murdering people in the Hollywood Hills. I should have written this into a script, but I remember doing that, and the only audience I had was my best friend, who would read them and laugh like hell in Spanish class and tell me, like, well, this one was good, but you should have more where Curly murders people. And and then I remember with Eric in Columbia College, we had a Norm Holly's comedy workshop class, which was great and a big education, I think, for both of us.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I wanted to write a sketch. I think he like wanted us to all write sketches for something. And for me, I remember, I think we were living together at the time in Chicago, and we just seen Goodfellas. And I wanted to write something that was like a parody of that, something, so we did the restaurant scene, I think, or no, the scene where they're like laughing, and which it ended up becoming the show Goombas that we ended up doing at the Annoyance.
Yep.
That was great because it was like a sketch that ended up becoming something else, which was fun. That was pretty awesome. But that was like the first one I think I remember where I just like sat down and I was like, all right, this is the sketch.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I had a friend of ours from there. I remember Danny Robles was in it with us, and I think Jason LeBeau might have been in there with us too.
Right.
And I remember another sketch that we did that turned into a show, which was Blind Surgeon.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah.
Bastards.
Right. That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
that character.
I think we got to give Norm some props. I had him for like half a year when I was at Second City too. Taught me a lot about writing sketches.
Oh, he was great.
He probably wrote about half our graduation show.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, we'll get into the workshop class and Annoyance here in a few minutes. So That's pretty awesome, guys. Yeah, we all tape recorders. That seems to be a common thing, and just being influenced by what was hugely popular at the time, which was all these various sketch groups. It was amazing, an amazing time for sketch. So we all end up in Chicago at the same time. We're going to jump a little bit here. We're all doing stuff at the Annoyance, Improv Olympic, Second City, Comedy Sports. And Mike and Scott and I, of course, had already worked on a lot of shows together. In Bean Can Tour and the Brainwarp shows, Stinky Onion Gang, the Squirrel documentary for the fine people over at Reach Around Productions, and Dumbass Leaves the Carnival, Fashion Fascists. I mean, we just did, I don't know how many shows we did together. So we definitely, the three of us had a rapport. We kind of knew each other's strengths. And at that time, Bill, where were you doing stuff?
I started out moving to Chicago to do Second City. And that was my goal. And then I had it in the back of my head. I had heard about IO, and I heard, it was a really cool place to be and people were doing amazing work there. But I didn't have the money to pay for 2 sets of classes at the same time. So I focused on that. And then I found out Comedy Sports would pay you to do shows. And I was like, okay, well, then I can get the experience live on stage, get money, and then maybe take an IO class. I took 2 classes at IO and never really went on with that. I was there for one Saturday and I was there for another Saturday. And both of those classes were taught with Sharna Halpern. And then I didn't come back. But I have fond memories of eating sandwiches in that area. And then I started touring with Second City. And when I was touring with Second City, I started doing more shows at IO because I had friends who were in my touring company who were like, hey, we're doing a set over here, or people that I had gone through the Second City system with who would welcome me into their sets over at IO to their great peril. And so I was kind of, I would say mostly, but then I was amazed to discover the Annoyance where you guys all were working at one point.
Were you doing any of the comedy houses there?
Yeah, when I moved down to Chicago in '92, my focus was college, and I was doing Comedy Sports in Milwaukee, so I got traded, and I was doing a whole bunch of shows with them, and like Bill had mentioned about how they were actually paying people to perform, so that kind of led me a little more there.
Hey, if I'd heard about that, I probably would have gone there too. Did you know Bill back then? Were you working with Bill there at Comedy Sports?
Bill and I met. I think Bill and I got into Comedy Sports around the same time.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't remember, Bill, if you auditioned. I was going to audition, and the week before they were so shorthanded for players that they're like, anybody they knew in town, do the show. They were like, do the show for us and you're in. And I was like, all right.
My mother was a 100% Proudfoot Indian, and I'm her baby boy. Yes, I am. A 100% Proudfoot Indian. And you'll never take that away from her. Never. 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 You'll never take that away from my mama. Never.
Let's talk a little bit about Bean Can Tour, Comedy Workshop for a minute. That's where we first performed, some of the bits that we ended up doing during Dickie Bell. So real quick, for anyone who doesn't know, the Annoyance Theater at the time was kind of a new thing, and it was started by Mick Napier, who came out of Second City himself, and it was kind of a ragtag, comedy house. You never, they had total freedom to say anything you wanted, any kind of topics you wanted to address. That's kind of, Bill, you said you came to Chicago for Second City. That's kind of what I had planned too. But once Stelly and I heard about this annoyance place where you could do anything you wanted to, I mean, that just sounded great. I said, what? Yeah, I mean, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to write our own shows and not, be told, not be dictated to. So,
exactly. Yeah, it sounded like crazy. It was like, what? We're gonna go? You want us to go? So we could do this, or we could go to Second City and take classes and pay. And then, yeah, I mean, I really wish though that I had done both things. I think I could have figured out a way to do both things, but I just remember it was like, wow, let's put all of our energy into this place where we can just do stuff.
I remember talking with Mick when you guys were in rehearsals for your first show. It was Goombas and Bastards, yeah. And I remember asking him, like, what is it? And he's like, I don't know. I don't have any idea. I have no idea what their show's going to be. I'm like, all right, that's cool. That was excellent. And then you guys were a perfect fit.
And the comedy workshop thing was a thing that Norm Holly, who's also, him and Mick were kind of, peers, kind of the same age range and kind of, kind of same sensibilities for certain things. So it was great being in comedy workshop, working under Norm, kind of learning, the ropes of putting together sketches and shows and stuff like that. And then to go to the Annoyance and just jump in and be able to do it. It was a lot of freedom, a lot of fun. But the Bean Can was, I believe, Annoyance Theater's first late night sketch show. It was on Saturday nights immediately following the juggernaut co-ed prison sluts, which always sold out. So we always had a decent house. And of course, they were all on that time. And we
a group of leftover drunks.
Yeah, too fucked up to go anywhere.
Yeah, so like, stay here and what is, how much was it? Free? Oh, all right.
It was free. Stay seated. Basically.
Let's finish the six pack and listen to these assholes.
They're just as drunk as we are.
Exactly. Why not?
That's what kind of made that Annoyance unique at that time, because you couldn't at Second City, as far as I know, you couldn't do like a late night show about a supervillain that ate babies. Right. I mean, not that they would want to, they didn't need to, they had their own thing going, but it just wouldn't show up at a house like that. And those are the kind of things that you could do at the Annoyance, whether that's good or bad.
I think you guys stepped in really well because you were already writing material around the same time that I came up with the idea of doing the Bean Can tour, because nobody there was writing anything down.
That was your idea.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
And I thought, and you guys were my inspiration, to be honest with you, because like your shows, Goombas and Bastards were so sharp, and I really appreciated the fact that it was scripted. The Annoyance shows, we would improvise in rehearsals, and we would set our dialogue and characters and plot and everything through rehearsals, but we would improvise until it became a set show. But there was never any paper scripts. Like we would have understudies for co-ed and all these shows, and there was no scripts.
Right, you'd have to watch the video.
You have to watch it, or watch the show the night before or something, and then take your own notes, right? So at the time, you guys were there, and I don't think we were doing a show together. We might have been doing like Motel Smegma rehearsals or something at that time. But Matt Besser was there, Matt Walsh was there, Pat Walsh was there, us, Jody Lennon, Mick. Like nobody was writing their own material down, and so the idea was, let's just teach ourselves to write better. Because the time is going to come where we're going to have to take all this material and all this creativity, and we're going to have to like carry it somewhere and put it on somebody's desk. So I started the Bean Can tour, and the idea was every week we would do an hour-long brand new show with all new material every week, and anybody at the theater was invited to do it. And so I even went as far as setting up like, okay, we'll meet, like, I didn't want to make it like rehearsals or anything. I didn't want to try to like structure anything too much. So I was like, let's just meet like 2 days before, and we'll try to beat things out in a beat sheet. And then the night of the show, we'll come in and maybe we'll try to have scripts. And then it was like the third week, we were doing it is like we're meeting at 12 o'clock on the roof, getting high and drunk, and figuring out what the dialogue was going to be for the entire show, and then we'd have to rush down and do the show.
If we had like a good half hour before the actual show to go through everything and beat everything out, that was a luxurious rehearsal time that we had beforehand.
Right. Yeah. And so there's still no scripts for most of them, but we would just have all this new material that we would develop every week.
Well, I remember, yeah, we were very interested in writing stuff at that time. So yeah, we would always come in, and I remember we'd rehearse our own stuff.
Yeah, at the time, early on, everybody was contributing a little bit. Like Mick would write something, something every week, or Jody or Kate Flannery would bring something, or Susan, and then after a while, it just kind of condensed into just like the same like half dozen of us that would just come in and put together a whole show every week, like at midnight for a 1 o'clock show or something like that.
You mentioned a good thing there too. Yeah, a lot of the stuff was, we never repeated anything. There was a couple of bits that we would repeat, but they'd be a new bit every time we did it. But we never repeated sketches, Yeah. Which would have been, that would have been a lot of stress.
Would have been the smart thing. That would have been too smart.
Yeah. We'd have to remember it then. We'd have to remember what we did the week before.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of stuff we carried over though. We did script out stuff, it wasn't necessarily all improvised. So we did carry a lot of material with us to LA.
We would write like all the beats out of like what the he was supposed to be, and hopefully we would get there.
Right. And 90% of the time, that's how we did it. And it set material very well, actually, because we'd figure out the dialogue, most of the dialogue on stage. And then we were done. If we could remember it, someone would write it down. And we'd fill out our beat sheet, fill the dialogue from the beat sheet. But that's pretty much, how it was. And it ran for a couple of years. So you consider every week, all brand new material for an hour, never repeating any of it. That's a lot of material.
I don't know what it was about that show, but I had a commitment to that thing for some reason. Yeah, I mean, I was there every Saturday doing that thing. Eventually, I kind of became, there wasn't any titles or anything, but kind of a showrunner, because I would get the running order going and talk to the tech and all that stuff. But
right, yeah, we'd have to tech it out, whatever there was, and props and stuff. Luckily, there was like a house full of props for us to grab we needed, so that worked out well.
Yeah.
And there was shit like, I remember like Jody wanted to do something. We did some magic magician thing with Matt Walsh, and Jody wanted to do pyrotechnics. And she went out and she bought like some magnesium sulfide or whatever, some flash paper and stuff. And we didn't even, and she only bought like enough for the sketch. Like she wouldn't even try it out. And so I remember Matt was like popping up through the window, and we were right next to the window, and we were gonna light the flash paper, and she lit it like right in front of him, and he like singed his hair, and we had to just keep going. But it was like, that's the kind of stuff that we would, no rehearsals really. We would just know what we needed to do, and then just do it for the first time on stage. But nobody got hurt or killed, so it worked.
As far as we know. Yeah.
There was an anarchy. It was like anarchy when we used to do that show sometimes, because we would like just grant, like it was like we'd have a few minutes to get everything together. Never! I'll kill you!
So that's our humble beginnings.
Yeah.
So now, episode 1. The Dickie Bell Twist Dance Party story actually begins with a thing called the Duty Balls.
The Duty Balls, yep.
Which was the first name for this group, as far as I can see, which I was not yet involved with at the time. And this is a super group. Let me just say, it has you three guys, Bill, Scott, Stelly, plus Susie Nakamura, Susan Messing, and Laura Kraft. And by the way, hi, Susie, Susan, and Laura. So this is a murderer's row of Chicago comedy, the 6 of you. How did this group get together? And the big question, who came up with the name The Duty Balls?
Right.
Mike had a better memory than me of the Duty Ball name.
Well, I remember a lot of this stuff, weirdly. I think we had just moved to Chicago. We just moved from Chicago to LA. I think Eric, you'd been here for a little bit. Bill, you were new, and I think Scott was new. And I can't remember, Michael, if you were there, but we were at the Cat and the Fiddle, the old Cat and the Fiddle. And remember this, Bill?
I honestly don't remember the exact moment. I remember the era and everything that was going on around it, and Jeff Garlin's show. But yeah, I can't wait to hear the story.
I think it was you, it was Scott and Bill, and we were at the Cat and the Fiddle after some show. I forgot what show we went to see. And a lot of Chicago people were there, and Jeff Garlin was there. And Jeff Garlin, we were talking to him, and then I forget if like at some point Bill came over to me and said, "Hey, Jeff's got this show at Bang Theater, and he wants us to." He said that he could use a sketch group, or if there's anybody who wants to do anything. And you mentioned a sketch group, and you didn't really have a sketch group, so you said, "Let's get a sketch group together, and we can perform it."
Yeah,
it was Bang, right? The Bang Theater.
Yep.
Yeah, it was Bang Theater. Yeah, Peter and Eliza Murrieta founded. I think they were here before iOWest with Bang.
Oh yeah.
Theater. Yeah.
Years before.
So they were like the first incarnation of long form improv, and then also sketch and stand up. Beautiful little black box theater right up the street from the Cantor's Deli. Thank you, on Fairfax. Which I always imagine the whole old school world of show business there at Cantor's, and it seemed so perfect.
Oh yeah,
and it was right across the street from Largo too. Which was pretty cool too.
Was it on Fairfax or La Brea?
Yeah,
Fairfax. It was on Fairfax.
It's on Fairfax. All right. Wow. Yeah. That's a great area. Great area.
Yeah. Jeff Garlin was starting a show of having some friends come in and do monologues about. He'd get a topic from the audience, and everybody do like 5-minute monologues. So there'd be 2 guests and him, and so every 15 minutes he'd want a break, like and so he invited us to do a set in between these. Like maybe we did 2 sets. I don't remember doing 2 sets. I remember just doing one longer set there. Yeah. So he was like, "You guys," because he knew us. We were friends of his from Chicago, and he worked with Mick extensively. So he was a friend of ours from just working in Chicago. So yeah, he just kind of, and we didn't really have a show yet, right? We were just kind of like, "Oh, layout." We all wanted to work together.
I think the 3 of us were there, and Jeff said it to Bill, and then the 3 of us were like, "All right, let's put together a sketch group." And I think Susie Nakamura was there too, so we asked her.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Susie and I had been doing stuff with a group called the Dirty Stayouts, which was
I remember Dirty Stayouts.
Me, her, Spencer Kyman, who was a friend of mine from St. Louis, who was doing comedy with Catch a Rising Star, and Kevin Farley. But I think there was this gravitation because that was we were all kind of like splitting up from that group at the time, so that wasn't the right thing, and we were all there at the Cat and the Fiddle. Now I'm starting to remember a little bit more, but I missed that place. I'm so sorry.
I know.
As far as the title, all right. So I don't remember ever going by the title, the name, the Duty Balls.
I do remember that happening the first time.
But this is what for some reason I remember that I thought what it was we never settled on a name, so every week we had a different name.
Oh yes. That's right.
It wasn't our idea. It wasn't our name. I don't think we came up with it, did we? I think Jeff did.
The Duty Balls. Call yourself the Duty Balls.
Right. He just. I think.
Here's the thing. I think that running order. I think that was just a name that we put on there.
Oh.
We didn't know what name we were going to be
Such
called.
a Jeff Garlin kind of name though, because I thought I remember like him asking what are we called, and like we didn't have a name, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll do it." And then he just called us that the first time he introduced us, but it could be wrong. But it was for the first. The
name was we finally decided that we had to settle on a name. I think and it was my marriage or something.
And it was great. It was great synchronicity because Bill, you were working with Susie. I moved out with Lauren and Susan Messing, so we were all living in the same place. And I was also hanging out with Susie at the time too, so it kind of brought us all together. And I remember having a conversation with you, Bill, about when I get out to LA, when we were both out in LA, I really look forward to working together.
Yes.
And then this happened like the month I moved out there.
We had that group, and then Susie was in the group for like only a couple of shows, and then she got Tom Selleck's show.
Right,
Yeah.
she booked that.
And then she went off to do that. So then I think she was replaced by Laura Kraft, maybe.
Yep.
I think Laura only did a couple of shows too. She didn't do too many. And then Susan left soon after.
And then Laura went on to write for the Colbert Show. So it wasn't like women weren't welcome in our troupe. We kept on trying to find the best women in comedy, and they all got hired up before us.
I got hired up.
Women
and Susan moved back to Chicago 6 months after we moved there, and she was on main stage Second City soon after. So.
And then December 12th is when I have the first time that I performed with you guys. And that was seven. That was seven of us in that. I've got the running order for that. It's got Phone In, Porn Board, Bill and Music, La Toilette, Kid and Horror, which I don't remember.
Good title.
Czech Comic.
Oh yeah, I remember what that was. That was I was a sailor, and I think it was Susie was a prostitute, and like he was like he had no idea what sex was or anything like that. Oh, God, I get to go around the world. That's why I joined the Navy in the first place.
Yep,
that's what that was.
Bless the naive sailor character. I love him.
And a hooker.
Love it. That's Kid and Horror, of course. That's totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
With Eric, did you do a show with us at Bang, or was your first show at IO?
I did. I did one show, I think, maybe two, with you guys at Bang.
I remember, Eric, you did, because we would go before our shows with postcards, and we would stick them under every windshield wiper on Fairfax. And I remember you being there for that. And I remember getting high with like Brody Stevens or somebody in front of Largo when we ran into some comedians or something who were hanging out there, and we were passing out our postcards, and we all just got really wasted. And then I think we did a set in Garlin's show.
And then I think then Jeff decided that we were too funny for the show. And that
what he said?
That we needed to move on. I forgot exactly what he said, but it wasn't. I think it was that the show, like he wanted to do it all with just the format that he had.
Yeah.
That we were an intrusion somewhat into that, I guess.
There's some reviews from that time that explain his show. Yeah, and he would basically invite. It was his combo platter thing. He'd invite some stand-ups up, and at the end they would all get together and so I can see how a sketch group in the middle of all that would kind of
We were like a huge distraction of that show, but it was fun.
He was very proud of us being in his show, though, because for years after, he always said that he discovered us.
Yep.
And,
That's
fun. So it was.
Look where we are now.
And Mr. Burson, please speak up. When did you arrive in LA? Do you remember?
I got to LA January of '99. And as soon as Bill and I had been doing comedy sports in Chicago for a long time. And as soon as I got out there, Bill and I hung out, and Bill was the one who asked me if I'd be interested in doing some music for a sketch show. And I was like, hell yeah. So
we'll get to that in a second. We're almost there.
The next phase.
So before we get to our iOWest thing, let's talk about the title of the show real quick. Dickie Bell Twist. I know, Mike Stelly, that came from you. Who's the genius that added dance party?
I can't remember. I think that we were trying to come up with a name. We wanted to try to nail a name, and I came up with. I think it was. I forget exactly how it was, but it was. I came up with Dickie Bell Twist.
Right.
Because I thought that sounded funny, and I think the idea was kind of like Monty Python. Like we're trying to come up with a name that was like Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Right.
And I think the idea was something, because Monty Python's Flying Circus is a great name because it's like it's ridiculous sounding, but it's also kind of official sounding.
Right.
And that so this would be like Dickie, and I think it was originally like the Dickie Bell Twist show.
Okay.
But if I remember correctly, you said, well, maybe people will wonder who.
Oh, you froze, Mike.
Yeah.
Oh.
Python's Flying Circus, the Dickie Bell Twist dance party.
Okay.
Yeah, what it was more defining, more definitive, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it sounded ridiculous and official.
Right.
Well,
and it sounds more alluring too, like it's something that you would go to. you know, and have
Oh
fun.
yeah, anything with a party, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And because the phrase, the word twist was in there and dance party, it evoked that early 60s, mid 60s vibe that I think that kind of happened all on its own. We never said this is what we want to do.
Right.
We just showed up for shows and all of a sudden we all had the skinny ties and the vintage suits. I don't
Right.
remember us ever having a discussion about that ethic or
Yeah, you're right.
aesthetic.
I remember us talking about the professional look of it, and we all appreciated that, but we never really had a conversation about like how we need to dress.
Yeah.
Just kind of
Well,
cool.
you know, names are such an important part of this kind of thing. I mean, you don't want something that sounds like you put a lot of time into it. But we went full blown Monty Python, as you said, a long title with a funny comedy name in it, because then you have to live up to the name. And I think we did. I think we definitely lived up to the name, the Dickie Bell Twist Dance Party. We definitely lived up to it.
Yeah.
So I came in on the December 12th show, and I just want to know why. Because you guys had a great balance. There's like 3 women, 3 men.
Yeah, but at that point, the last woman in the show was Laura, and she had just left for whatever project she was doing, and we knew that 3 wasn't enough. I don't think 3 is ever enough for a sketch troupe, unless you're going very light on costumes and light on transitions and stuff.
3-headed dog,
Yeah.
they do a great
Yeah.
job. Yeah,
They do. They're one of the few, like Rush. There's not a lot of comedy Rush groups out there.
right.
Well, I just knew that we would be so much better with you, Eric. And I kind of, in my mind, I wasn't gonna take no for an answer.
And I remember that show. I remember rehearsing, Scott, at that place that you shared with Susan Messing and Laura Kraft.
Yeah, it was the old Charlie Chaplin house.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
That place is
It was built for. It was right by the Formosa Cafe, right down the street on Formosa.
It was like a little elfin village almost. Like
It was, yeah, and he built it for the set of one of his films because his studio was right there on Fairfax, like a block away, and so that was still like a part of the lot, I guess, back then. But these 4 little cottages that looked like freaking out of a Disney cartoon. Yeah, and there was a nice courtyard, a cobblestone courtyard with big trees and stuff, and we just sit out there and have rehearsals, right?
Oh, it was beautiful. Yeah.
Yep. Neil Flynn lived in the front house.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yep.
I knew you were of rude blood.
What, you again? Deja vu.
But the stuff that we did that was older from Chicago, we'd only done it like a couple of times, really, in front of like maybe, a half dozen drunks at midnight.
Exactly,
And it was like, we never really like finessed it and worked it to the point that we did with Dickie Bell. I mean, I can't remember if I did Cops with Coffee in Chicago or if it was a LA thing. Because if I did, it definitely became a better scene with Dickie Bell. I mean, I remember the shirt ripping off thing that was was a huge laugh.
How can you sit there and lie to me? You just lie! You sit and you lie!
That was never a part of the old one. We came up with that for Dickie Bell, and it was like, just constantly, working that stuff. But that's what you do when you come to LA. You take your material. If you're a stand-up, you take your jokes that you came up with, your 5 minutes, and then you bring it to LA and you work on it until it's gold, and you work on new stuff too. And that's what we did with sketch.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun to try those things again, because as we were saying, Bean Camp, we never repeated anything, and some of those things were gold. And what, you're just gonna, that's it? There was some drunk people in Chicago one night in the early 90s that saw it and not forget about it? No.
Right.
Yeah. Here's something I wanted to know how it started was the 10th dimension angle.
It's the 10th dimension. It's the bee's knees. But bend them the wrong way, if you please. 'Cause you're entering the 10th dimension. Look at you in the 10th dimension. 7 eyeballs, sorry, I had to mention. You look weird.
All that stuff was kind of early on in the group's personality. There was a real kind of push to say that this show was broadcasting from the 10th dimension. It was always something we kind of try to put in here and there. I was just wondering, I mean, where that kind of came from. I mean, I know obviously probably it was from the Dino and Tom Bell song, The 10th Dimension, that they used to sing in Chicago.
I think that's why I think that's why you and I had that reference.
Yeah.
That's what we used to say all the time.
Right.
But I also think, Eric, that a lot of it was, and I think we all had this sensibility, but it was, I know, like for me, I'm just like thinking back at younger and our influences, and even some of the like musical choices. It was also like we were trying to be very, I think, almost like sketch, but like kind of Lynchian in our approach to it. If I were to like draw from a completely different type of inspiration, but I think it was something like that. Like we're trying to just be kind of like that. We're doing stuff, like the stuff that we did was not like timely. We never did like anything timely. Like we never like did impersonations of like politicians and stuff like that. We wouldn't do like satire. Like we wouldn't do we do satire. But we wouldn't do parody of like the latest movie or TV show or something like that. It was all stuff that took place like almost in its own little weird kind of 10th dimension sort of universe, I guess. I don't know. I think that might have been something like what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was stuff. Yeah, that's a good point. We didn't do anything topical. It was all stuff that people could relate to, I think. I mean, not everything, but it wasn't like headline news stuff or, spoofing the latest. I think the closest thing we got to that was we did our own version of a taxi cab confession.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But that was, again, our own version. And one of the early releases we have from Improv Olympic, which later became iOWest, is they kind of described us as character-driven sketch comedy, which I think that's, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I remember us talking about the whole 10th dimension thing, in that it was more about originality, right? And that none of our stuff. We had a very similar conversation we're having right now. It's like we don't do any topical stuff. It's like it's all kind of timeless. It all kind of takes place anywhere, and it also gives us permission to do whatever the fuck we want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And we could be as weird as we want, and that kind of appealed to us, I think.
And I think a lot of what we were trying to depart from was the stuff that we were actually influenced by. Like SCTV was only parody, and Saturday Night Live really focused on that, and it was all the commercial parodies. And even though commercial parodies are a great joke bucket to put a bunch of, parody stuff into and get a lot of laughs out of, we never had any commercial parodies of anything that we did, which is something that at that point, almost every sketch troupe had a bunch of commercial parodies, and we never even bothered with that.
Yeah.
That was a big thing in LA too.
I think we thought that kind of stuff, and I hate to sound like, we were so special, but I think we thought like that type of stuff was too easy and cheesy to do. Like we were like, whatever.
And that kind of probably started at the annoyance with us, maybe because, as during Bean Can and stuff like that, because we were doing sketches based on people we saw on the L or something,
Yeah, just characters we like to do, right?
Slice of life in another dimension. Yeah. Yeah, because like you guys said, we were all still kind of new to the city. We didn't have a lot of contacts. We didn't know a lot of people. I mean, we didn't have a lot of resources that we could call upon to do things. So it was all just kind of ourselves scraping it up.
It was very beneficial, I think, because Bill and I and Susan and Laura were all doing shows there. Either if not together, then Laura was hosting her own show every week. So it was kind of, I think we'd all proven ourselves capable, so it was an easy sell. It was a perfect venue too, because even though nobody got paid there, they still had a really great dedicated group of people like running stage managing stuff, and it was pretty fun community. There was like that little clubhouse in the back, there was an alley to hang out in, and so everybody took advantage of that, and really, and there was a liquor store right next door that knew us. It was like, damn, it's like this is just tailor made for.
I think one of the coolest things about that era too was that Eric's apartment was right up the block
Yeah.
from IO, so we could basically walk over, not have to repark our cars, and then talk over the show or start talking new ideas, play video games like we were talking about early, and that's where a lot of the fun ideas would come. We just
Totally. Well, that's one of the things I want to talk about too, real briefly, is that for people, with the new sketch group, it's a very important thing is rehearsal space. You want a place where you don't have to worry about getting the carpet dirty, and that was definitely that place on Wilcox. Yeah, I mean,
That's for sure. And also, it wasn't just rehearsals like during the week or before a show. It's like we go right back there after a show too, and we'd be up there we'd be there till like 4 sunrise the next day.
Yeah.
And just so hanging out and just bouncing things off each other and forgetting a lot of it. But
yeah, no, it was a great way to. I think that's part of the reason why we lasted so long is because of the things like that. We had a rehearsal space. Things just were easy. It was easy to make that happen.
Yeah, it became our social life.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, you know how hard it is to schedule a cast for rehearsals. Like in any other situation, it's damn near impossible.
Totally,
and for us, it was just the 4 of us. And I think that's one of the things we appreciated too, is like all 4 of us were pretty much always available, and we'd come by and we'd hang out for 8 hours at a time.
Right.
That helped.
I think that's why we kept it like so at 4, because that was like the thing. It was so easy for us to be able to get together and work on everything.
Right. And Mike was always available too, bless your heart.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, we all had really awesome taste in music too. So we had all this library of really incredible instrumental music. When like how many people would get into instrumental music like we do? It's like we had this range of like German crime soundtracks and film noir soundtracks and all this other eclectic stuff from the 60s and 50s and 70s that we all could draw from. So it worked out nice.
Yeah, no, it was. It just added to the feel of the whole thing. I mean, there was no other show around like it. I mean, it really had its own personality, and
we had a lot of style.
A lot of style, absolutely.
Definitely.
Did we mention that we always wore suits?
Right.
Ties? I don't know if that came out yet. But
and our goal at the time, we from time to time we had different things we were trying to accomplish, but I think obviously overall we wanted a TV series, but of course who doesn't? But that's kind of what we were kind of aiming for. And now we
we weren't Canadian. That was my reason at the time. We were 4 white dudes, but we weren't freaking Canadian.
Damn it, eh?
And now we're on to episode 2, which was always funny to me because we didn't really have an episode 1. I guess we considered everything prior to that as episode 1, is what I assume.
I think calling it episode 2 was more of a marketing technique, so people would come back and see it.
Oh yeah.
Implying it wasn't the same old stuff.
Yeah.
And we did a lot with this show. I mean, we played the HBO Workspace, UCB Theater in New York, the Comedy Store on Sunset. And there were a handful of things that I remember that we kind of wanted to do with this show. I know we wanted to use the Brainwarp characters, Pinky Skink, LaFoot. I know we wanted to use Grandpa Wiggly. And I know we wanted to do the Moondoggies, and we wanted to establish the Magnet City concept. 10th Dimension kind of went over a little bit to Magnet City. We wanted a director, and we wanted to get into the Aspen Comedy Festival. Those were kind of things that we wanted to accomplish with this second show. So we transitioned a little, as I was saying before, decided to focus more on the Magnet City element than 10th Dimension. It was still 10th Dimension, but because we were using the Brainwarp characters, I think we just placed everything in Magnet City and just, went with that.
Ah, Magnet City, I've got you in the palm of my ass. I mean, finger. Hey!
So we did a few weeks of shows where we were trying out new material with this concept of Magnet City, and remember there was like a travelogue type opening. Oh, here we are in Magnet City.
Ah, Magnet City. There's no place like you.
We could never find a funny enough way to get out this exposition.
Yeah, there was a voiceover lead in sometimes, and then became Grandpa Wiggly eventually, I think, leading us in.
That's what the solution was.
Yeah.
The greatest narrator, Captain Wiggly, or Grandpa Wiggly.
We got this great comedy character, and he was just in Magnet City. He just mentioned it, we're in Magnet City. And that's really all, because the show then would show you what life in Magnet City was like.
The children of my story, because each one has a moral. Like the moral of every time you go to sleep at night, your parents love you less. Or the moral every time you go to the bathroom, you lose part of your soul.
Yeah, surprisingly, it needed less setup than maybe we had originally thought.
Yeah.
Because it was so character driven, like Grandpa Wiggly kind of, set the tone for like, this is an insane place. Here's some insane people.
Well, I remember we had a note. It's the same note that Bob and David got when they were starting to put together Mr. Show, which is that someone suggested that we go out and talk to the audience first as ourselves, so that they have a frame of reference of who we really are compared to these characters we're doing. And that's what Bob and David ended up doing for all the Mr. Shows. They would come out and introduce things. But we tried that a couple times, and it was and we're trying to talk about the 10th dimension and the Magnet City and all that, and it just, I think it pushed the audience away.
Yeah. Well, what we were saying is that the show had an emotion and an attitude of itself. So whatever you do, don't upset the show.
Which is great.
I got it right here. It's the whole intro, our cast intro here.
That's awesome.
Magnet City's second page. Yep.
Beautiful.
Believe me, we're not happy about this at all. No. But if there's one thing we learned in the past, and that is to please obey the show.
Please. Yes. Do what the show tells you to do.
Yes, the show, as we refer to it, comes from the 10th dimension. It's another dimension.
That's right, 10th dimension. So, just whatever you do, just try to keep the show happy. Do whatever you'd normally do to keep the show happy.
Screaming.
Yahooing.
Yeah.
Clapping.
What an audience would do. Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it was a funny intro. It's funny.
It is funny.
Funny.
I think we went on a little long. That's, I think.
Yeah. 3 pages long. Yeah.
Yeah, I had
I remember we rehearsed the hell out of this second episode, man. There was a lot to figure out. I think we worked harder on that than all the other sketches before that.
Yeah, and the tech rehearsals, that's another thing. Yeah, no one else needed them. We definitely needed them. Those poor guys. It was like a stack of cassette tapes.
Yeah.
And boxes, steamer trunks of props.
Right. I remember that trunk.
Yeah. I remember throwing out that trunk like 10 years after we were done.
Amazing. Everything analog. Just right on the cusp of technology. We're just like, we missed it. We missed it. We're still.
Yeah, I know.
And then we'd have a really bad quality videotape to watch of ourselves after.
Yeah. Right. We couldn't hear ourselves.
Barely hear ourselves.
Bill, I want to see that logo, the logo sign, which was handmade by you. You have that handy?
Here we go. Well, yeah, first of all, I'll give you a little background of how it happened and why it happened. We still didn't have a logo. We did have like a little mascot, that character that Scott drew, that had like the little belly and the twirly hair and the arms and stuff. But we didn't have like a logo that said with graphics, Dickie Bell Twist. And so I happened to be, I think I was visiting Scott and was out on the west side somewhere, and I was on Abbott Kinney Boulevard. And there was a little vintage shop, and they had this entire barrel full of these little letters that you could use for like a marquee or something. And they were made out of like ceramic. And so then I went out, and I am not a crafty person at all, but it's one of those things where you just see and you have to do it. So I got this round piece of wood, painted it, and then put these letters, and I knew they couldn't be precise. They didn't have all of the letters that I needed to put it in one style of writing anyhow. So I glued them all on there, and they're still stuck to the board, and I still have it.
Look at that.
Look at that. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Beautiful.
Still love the iron twist.
Yeah.
Question mark.
And that was because they literally didn't have one. And I was like, we were all about making the mistake into what was supposed to be. So I was like, yeah, I'll take that question mark and turn it into the I for twist.
Perfect. Yeah, it's great.
Well, that sign has, for me, the appeal of two things: a retro kind of thing, honeymooners style thing, and a ransom note.
Yes.
It couldn't have fit us more perfectly. That sign.
Right. Yeah.
I remember when Bill brought it to the alley. I think before a show or something. I remember when he showed it to us. It was just so impressive, man. It was really charged us up.
It was, oh yes, this is it.
Yep.
Your father's mustache.
And then it became part of the opening dance number or whatever you want to call it that we did.
Yeah. Which was the greatest thing in the world, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Those transitions were the best.
Yeah. Everybody else was opening their sketch shows with like a blackout, and we opened it with a giant light show and
a strobe and extravaganza, swirling furniture.
Our transitions from scene to scene, I think those were like really, people love people.
See, that's
used to tell me that was like one of their favorite things about the show was that we would just all of a sudden, like just a little thing like that. And I think that was the thing. It's like the details, the little details, the stuff.
Exactly. We had great sensibility to keep things moving. And like the beginning of a lot of our shows, there would be phone in, with just me sitting there. And then the next one was poker with the four of us sitting there. So there was a need for movement in between those things. And
I remember us being really, really in the minutia of timing, like how long the transitions were. Like I remember timing them. It's like, couldn't be too long. If it was going to be on the longer side, we had to make it interesting. And it's like in the variety and just breaking up, the pacing of a running order. I think we were all very well versed in running orders, whether it be from Second City or the Annoyance or creating our own shows. That it's like the importance of pacing and the length of things and having a sense of how quickly everything moves just in your head as an audience member. Like to keep them engaged. I think we were very.
That was a big thing. Is, putting yourself in the seat of the audience and like, what's going to keep their attention? You don't want them getting bored. You don't want them going out, to the bathroom.
Or know what to expect. Like we never wanted to give them what they expected from moment to moment.
So the Moondoggies. This was a sketch. This is like a Jan and Dean kind of influence thing. This is a sketch that Scott and I first did in Bean Can in Chicago. We did it once, never did it again. It got a great response. So, I wanted to bring it out. And the reboot, we decided that we should expand it a little and give some kind of context as to why the audience should care about these guys. So we put together this little kind of behind the music scenes thing and were able to use Bill's great character, Artie Smitten, to narrate, get us into that.
You remember the hits? Surfer Don't Drown, Long Wave, and of course, the fastest car in the world.
And we decided, now we got to write surf songs. We got to actually write these songs, which is good because we had some good titles. You know, fastest car in the world. I mean, that writes itself.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a meeting, and then Bill and I stayed behind, I think, to kind of hammer out the rest of the lyrics for that. But I don't remember at what time. I mean, we knew we were going to have some musical accompaniment to this, and I knew that was a stressful notion because, you know, it's like, who can we count on? Who can we get? We still didn't really know that many people. There weren't a lot of music people hanging around. How did we come about the genius idea of getting Mr. Burson involved?
Well, that's like I said, like Mike said earlier, that one of his big pluses as a music director was he could play both guitar and keyboards, and you need guitar if you're going to do surf music. So I knew he was, you know, the perfect person to do that for us because he could even do improv music. So I knew he would be great doing sketch stuff.
Oh, it was perfect. Mike, do you remember anything about that that time, like how you got involved with it? And
not much. No, I do. I like
the late '90s were a blur.
Yeah,
and it was trial by fire, man. I think we threw you right into it from the get-go, as I recall.
Can I have a big round of applause for my brother Eric Pagach from our lights? My sister Michael Gerson on the organ. Thank you very much. We'll be back with previews for the rest of the year. God bless you.
Yeah, I think like I said, I got to LA in January of '99, and by February I was already working with you guys.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, because you had the lyrics for there was a 5 times 2 equals hang 10.
5 times 2 equals hang 10. 5 times 2 equals hang 10.
and fastest car in the world.
Faster than your car. Fastest car. Faster than any car. Fastest car. The fastest car in the world.
And I just remember thinking about it and thinking how, for me, you know, Janet D, Beach Boys, all of them, the songs, a lot of them sounded similar. So, you know, they were like in the same key. And when we had done the recordings, I used the same drum beat and all that kind of stuff, like purposefully to be like, oh, here's another one with another time. Here's another one. Right. You know, kind of just, you know, almost like a Mad Libs type of thing. And yeah, I remember working on it with you guys. And I think it all kind of came together the songs came together fairly quickly, from my recollection.
Yeah, I don't remember spending a lot of time.
Yeah. I think once we just found the key that it was going to be in, and just, okay, all right, let's look at this. Yeah, this will work, sure, you know. And it all sort of just kind of came together that way. If you don't mind, I'd say one more thing. You know, having Artie Smitten, you know, host the sort of behind the music thing. I have friends to this day who will say to me, parades. Anyway, because I never get good parades. Yeah, and I still have friends who will be like, parades, and just
And they told me they were a surf duo.
Yeah.
I remember these 2 kids came into my office so young their skin didn't have creases. Came to me and said they wanted a career. I said, hold it. What do you do? They said, first of all, we're brothers. I said, perfect. I got them everything I could. Parades? Anyway, then I
Artie Smith needed his own show. He needed his own show. He deserved it.
Yeah. But
since he couldn't get any of his clients their shows.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And then one of the last shows we did, October 4th, 1999, the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
How did we get this?
I think I had done an improv set there in a variety show, I think. And this woman said, well, if you ever want to do anything, and I was like, is sketch work? And she said, I don't know, does it? And Owen Hammer remembers this because I didn't remember this aspect of it.
He's there.
And he was always been a great supporter of our work.
Hey, Owen.
Hi, Owen. And he remembers it this way, because I didn't remember this at all. And he told me this, and I was like, oh my God. Is that nobody had seen any sort of sketch like that at the Comedy Store. And we killed so hard that when we were done, people assumed that, and I don't remember us killing, but this is how he remembers it. We killed so hard that people thought that was the end of the show and we were the headliners, and they got up and walked out of the club.
I remember that.
And there was one or two more acts coming after us.
Yep, I remember
But
that.
I think to us, I remember us beating ourselves up. Like, why weren't the laughs there? You know, the laughs that we were used to getting in an improv or sketch club.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
I remember it was a really awkward show. Yeah, that's. I remember we did it once, and it almost seemed like we did it like it was still daylight outside. I don't know. I didn't. It just seems.
Yeah.
It might be.
Well,
that might be my mind.
It was it's like we were performing in a strip club.
Yeah.
There was like glitter curtains and mirrors and neon and stuff. It just felt like what is going on?
Well, I remember this. I remember we were very tight because, of course, by that time we had everything memorized up and down, and I remember it was a real tight, fast show. I can't. All I remember doing is poker and moondoggies, but we might have done Whip It. I don't remember.
Maybe.
It was like a little mini show, a little mini version of our show.
Yeah.
It's delightful.
Just kind of go through a random selection of sketches and just kind of give our thoughts on it, where it came from, what inspired it maybe, if there was any story you remember when you were writing it and creating it. I'll just start, I'll get the ball rolling with the phone in.
Good evening, welcome to Talk Road. I'm Bert Wentworth. Tonight's topic is housing. And the number to call again is 1-213-555-1212.
Which is a sketch that I did at Bean Can Tour. And it was, we liked it because it was obviously, you know, weird. And it wasn't kind of what you would expect from, you know, some kind of a radio calling kind of thing. And the whole thing was based on this tape that I had that has that thing repeating. And you guys have heard this before, I'm sure, but I'll just say it real quickly because I think it's a good, you know, example of found comedy, of just finding, turning a mistake into something that hopefully is considered entertainment. I was visiting with my mom and I was recording this Cheech and Chong album that I had. I think it was Big Bamboo. It was a used record I got somewhere, and I put it on the recording thing, you know, and hit record, turned the volume down, left, came back, got the tape, went back to Chicago. I don't know when exactly I heard it, but halfway through it, there's a skip that starts, and it skips. It's like a 90-minute tape. The rest of the tape is just this skip happening. It's nuts. I have to use this somehow. I don't know how it turned into a phone-in thing. It makes sense, but that's how that sketch came to be. It was Cheech Marin. It was, I don't know what routine it was, but it was like this, you know, this 3-second, it was like a sample, just repeating over and over. And
you can't understand what he's saying, right?
No.
It's just like,
Great.
Like
It was
that.
confusing. The audience
Yeah,
was
it's confusing.
confused by it. They didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was amazing.
It was being in the light booth watching this to open a show was so fucking awesome because it was just the most awkward. Nobody could interpret what was happening, and you were just sitting up there just cool as a cucumber forever.
Yeah.
And all this
Forever. Like people would be like, the audience would be like, is this fucking supposed to be happening right now? Like, what the fuck is going on?
yeah, they're like, is this the start of a show? Is this the show's gonna start, right? And it's like 8 minutes later.
Eric would just be sitting there.
Awesome.
It would just be sitting there taking notes.
Oh, Christ, hang up the phone, it's driving me crazy.
It would just He kind of like nodded his head every once in a while, and people would be like, "What the fuck is going on?" It was amazing.
Well, that's your
Poker. That's one I wanted to talk about. You know, that was just a great first group scene.
Whose turn is it?
You know,
Yeah.
That's why we picked that scene to do that. I'd love to hear how it came about, because there was just a focus. You could focus on our faces. It was just great. There was no moving around. A classic scene. Where did this scene come from?
We needed a group scene to start the show.
That's
it. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I remember we had at the end of rehearsal, we were like, we don't have a group scene that we can open the show with.
Yeah.
And so I just wrote the first version, and then of course, I mean, once we sat down, everybody was able to kind of, add their own lines, and we figured out how to play the moments and everything.
And I will raise you my wife's department store credit card.
With a head like that?
Shut up, Eric.
He's bluffing.
I am not.
Bluffing, huh? I was gonna bluff.
Because you're right, Eric. It was about us. We were sitting down. We came out of the opening, like after phone in, there was just a very static picture to start the show. We all came out, and there's a strobe light, and we were twirling furniture around and everything. It was just, it was Mandingo from the Mandingo CD.
Yeah.
And so it was just insane, in crazy choreography that all of a sudden like coalesced with all four of us sitting our chairs down, and then we were in the chairs, and then this really subtle music started. We were playing cards.
Put in $1.
Give me $1 and I'll raise you one.
That's 5. It's getting too rich for my blood. Let's pump it down to 4.
What the heck?
You can't do that.
Right.
And so it was us just like focus. The audience was able to focus just on us as being individuals, kind of being on ourselves. We weren't putting on goofy characters. So I think that was the strength of that to start the show.
And I'll see you with this film canister containing footage of the Beatles shooting John F. Kennedy. Starting to finish hot stuff.
Where did you get that?
Change the liquor store.
No, I mean the film.
And then we were able to kind of play these real long drawn out moments between each other really well that kind of the audience kind of got to know us enough, I think.
Such a great scene to show off all that stuff, and the added bonus of being hysterical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will raise you my afterlife, which I will spend for all eternity preparing it for you and your little visits. And I fold. I mean, of course, call.
And it was like we were playing comedy poker, because one of us would come up with a line, and then somebody else would come up with something that tagged on that, or
Yeah, it would have to heighten, right?
Yeah.
I remember us focusing. We wanted to make sure it was heightening. Everything heightens the last thing more and more. So that was our sitting around with each other doing that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was the scene Cops with Coffee.
All right. That's enough, Sal. This guy don't want to talk now, that's fine. We got plenty of coffee, buddy. We got all night.
I forget exactly what the idea of it was. I think another one, once again, I love movies. So another movie reference influence thing I think was Bad Lieutenant. I really liked Bad Lieutenant a lot. The first one with Harvey Keitel. The second one with Nicolas Cage is fucking awesome too. But the first one, Abel Ferrara, it's a hardcore movie, and I remember being really almost traumatized by watching that movie when I first saw it. And then I was trying to come up with something. I wanted to do something with a cop, and we're in Chicago. Cops they're kind of interesting in Chicago. So I think that's where that all kind of came from. But it was all the sketch was always,
about it.
The sketch was always it ended up where he ended up basically begging for his death. I mean, that was always
his heart bursting.
You gotta shoot me in the brain!
Stinky Stink was the most high energy asshole I've ever seen. It was so awesome.
I mean,
just real quick, I remember us doing that for the first time in the Jeff Garlin show, and I think it was the first time where you ripped Bill's shirt off on stage, and we were throwing crumpled up beer cans. That was my interrogation thing, and then when Mike was ripping his shirt off, but the empty cans made the sound. And Bill would say, just throw it as hard as you want, and I was whipping them at him, and they would hit him and like clang clang on his bare chest, on his bare torso, and Mike was just berating him to no end. And then I remember it was such an insanely high energy scene. Afterwards, after the set, we came down, and like Sarah Silverman like ran up to us, and she was just like pounding on us because she was so blown away by how, hi Sarah, like you're watching this, but it was really just like the most insanely high energy thing I think we did.
Yeah, I mean it was a difficult thing to perform.
Yeah,
the coffee, I used to actually like drink that whole pot of that shit that I used to make.
Oh man, the answer's lying at the bottom!
It was food coloring. I used to mix I think red and green food coloring together in the water. I would drink the whole thing.
It was.
It would really mess.
It was like a whole coffee pot full of it.
It was a full coffee pot that I would completely down. I would drink the entire thing, and it would mess my stomach up so bad for like days afterwards. I don't even want to tell you. It was really, really rough on me. But it was also the high energy, like going, like it was great. But we would really go for it in that scene, and that's why the addition of the shirt ripping. And I remember that we did it on stage. I remember the first time that we did it on stage because we rehearsed it, we talked about it. Bill got a tearaway shirt. I remember the first few weren't tearaway enough, so I would almost be pulling you literally out of your seat, trying to rip this thing off of you to take so many tries sometimes. And I'd be like, I'm gonna get this goddamn thing off so I can get this laugh.
Oh. You sit there and lie to me. You just lie. You sit and you lie. You sit there and lie to me. You sit there and lie. And lie and lie. Oh, you liar. You liar. You're infested. You liar. Son of a bitch. Oh, here's beautiful evidence. How could you sit there and lie to me? Why do you lie? You liar.
Yeah, that was a great scene. That was a great scene. That was cool.
High energy. Yeah, always a highlight of the show. Always. Yeah. Another highlight for me was always a little thing we call Jesus Wrestler.
Here's a taste of next week's big event. We present the Nazarene Machine, Jesus Christ, the ultimate Savior.
Pontius Pilate! I hear your big talk. You think you can wash your hands of me? But don't forget that I am the undisputed Savior of all mankind.
Bill, we've talked about this before briefly, but I just love this idea. It's such a simple, and I don't mean simple in a bad way. It's a simple idea. It's because that's all it needs. It's just so great. It's Jesus as a wrestler. I mean, what else do you need?
Yeah.
Where did this originate?
Well, it was kind of a combination of two things that made up my Sunday mornings when I was a kid. We would always go to church. It would be, here's the thing. We would watch Saturday Night Live. My dad would make 2 batches of popcorn for the entire family. And then we'd have leftover popcorn. But we couldn't eat the popcorn before we went to church because you had to fast before communion. So I would be like, oh, I want that popcorn. So so I made a ritual of myself for after we got back from church. There was a thing in St. Louis. This was before like WWE or WWF became a big thing, wrestling at the Chase. And it was the Chase Park Plaza Hotel. And because it was centrally located, a lot of wrestlers from all over would come. And it was this big Sunday afternoon wrestling program in St. Louis. So I always conflated the idea of Jesus and wrestling all in the same. And those two things kind of like personify my hometown of St. Louis, Jesus and wrestling.
Consider the lilies of the field. But also consider this. I will make you white bitch when we step into the cave.
So that's where it came up. And at that point, Ali Faranakian was crashing with me and Jim Coughlin at our place in Burbank.
I remember.
Hi, Ali, and hi, Jim. So I kind of like ran the idea by him, and he kind of like, gave me some notes and some feedback on that. And so that's where that came from. And I always loved doing it. And then that was another shirtless sketch for me.
We could have done a lot more with that character. That's one small regret I have, is that there was more potential for that guy, but I just loved that it was so quick. I mean, it was everything before you ever had a chance to get sick of it or anything.
Yeah.
It was in and out, and it was just a killer.
Yeah, it was a beautiful blend of the two things. And it's great that I think it was that because it just came from such a pure place. Like, you didn't really need to add anything else. It was just those two things together.
Blessed are the meek. Oh, how blessed are the meek, for they shall see me, unveiling Pontius Pilate, right after the Fister truck and tractor pull, featuring Little Frenchman Jr. and my personal favorite, Noah's Ark.
To this day, I still remember Little Crunchfoot Jr.
Yeah.
That's the name of one of the trucks. Little Crunchfoot.
Oh, Crunchfoot Jr. and my personal favorite, Noah's Ark.
I always tried to imagine what Little Crunchfoot Jr. looked like as a monster truck.
I always thought that was such a genius little sidebar pit, little advertisement. Is talking about the monster truck show as well.
I'll be there whenever two or more are gathered in my name.
Why did we stop? Does anybody remember? I mean, 2 years is really good for a sketch group. With the Comedy Store show and shows like that, it seemed like we were in a kind of a groove. I don't know. Does anybody remember any specifics or conversations why we?
No, there definitely wasn't like ill will or anything.
No.
I remember us being really exhausted after creating episode 2 and doing the showcase and everything like that. And so there was probably a little burnout, a little disappointment, and that probably contributed.
Thank you guys again, and thank everybody for checking into the first sketch panel. We'll see you again soon.
Hope so. Thank you.
And
this is great seeing you guys. It was great working with you guys. Great seeing you all again. And
thanks for tuning in.
It was really
if you
good.
end up doing something, just to at least let me know. I can see if I can drive over and meet up with you guys if I can.
We will.
Love all you guys, man.
Love you too.
Yeah.
Some of the best times performing with you
Love
guys.
you guys too.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it was
Anytime.
one of the most fun times that any of us probably ever had. So yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Well, this is awkward.
All right.
Yeah, no way.
Hold on, let me tag it with this really quick.
Yeah.
You can see how fun it is to work together writing sketch comedy. If you'd like to learn more about how to do it, starting from square one, check us out at theimprovtrick.com. And we're out. All right, I'm going to end it before I start crying.
Don't stop.
Hey guys, thanks.
Dance Party.
Great job, Norm.
Yes. Norm Tomey.
You're gonna get a ducky.
What? Yeah, I'll bring that switch.